And then we've got a whole bunch of extra slides at the end. If you guys are interested in FastTrack or WVD, I love the FastTrack folks. I've been involved in a lot of deployments in this COVID era with state and local government and federal agencies, and the FastTrack folks provide a really great cadence and support to customers and best practices to make these deployments happen. And they've been an enabler for a lot of very successful customers in a deployment, from a deployment perspective, and they're fantastic. They've got access to all the. They also know how people are doing things that are specific to government, because there's some nuances when you're working with government, and folks like Jason have been very helpful as we've rolled through those deployments. So if you're interested in FastTrack, please feel free, or WVD, please feel free to reach out. My email address is there, and like I said, I'm working with a lot of public sector entities. Mark is one of the NetApp resources that works with us. The NetApp resources that we have supporting WVD, they're a little bit different than regular NetApp people in that they actually have Microsoft email accounts. So they're an extension of our Microsoft team, providing cloud first Azure integrated support. So Mark's actually got a Microsoft email address as well, but feel free to reach out to them. We work very closely. I don't have another partner relationship where I work more closely with an organization than with NetApp right now. And Jason on the FastTrack team can't say enough great things about what he does and what his teams do. Can't really talk about the customers he works with because it's government work, but we cross paths every week between him and other folks on his team. And feel free to email us if you have any questions about the presentation or the slides. I think there's probably a good chunk of questions, or there were some questions in the live Q&A. I think a lot of them have probably been answered and published already. Happy to dig through more architecture slides. We actually will, I think, post these slides if that's okay with all of you. We've got a whole bunch of other slides as resources in the deck that you can look at, links to download the various agents, some tips and tricks from Jason on some things as well, and some performance stuff from NetApp as well. So we're happy to hang out and answer more questions if you'd like. But we'll wanted to point out the upcoming next session for the meetup on March 31st. I don't know what the topic is, but
yes, we're working on infrastructure as code as the topic, as well as some other topics around DevSecOps.
Cool.
Hopefully publishing the agenda soon, so very excited for that. So thank you again, John, for your great presentation. I know we're ending a little earlier. Thank you for all your questions. I think Tina, you're typing some new questions for us.
Well, I see a couple in there. There was one that I just saw that said, "Is there a threshold for the number of users for going with NetApp over a storage account?" And I'm kind of the storage guy, and I've kind of made that call for a lot of organizations. So I'll just say that with an Azure Files standard storage account, because it's a great question, the threshold is based on the I/O load for the Azure storage account. So Azure storage accounts, depending on what published limit you look at, top out for a standard storage account at either 10,000 or 20,000 IOs per second, which drives a lot of the sizing based on the number of IOs per second you might see for your FSLogix deployment. So it's got to do with the IOPS that you anticipate, which could be somewhere between 8 and 30 or 8 and 50 IOPS per user. And I've got a whole spreadsheet around that. So whoever you are, if you want to hassle me, send me an email and we can talk about it. Happy to share that. But it's less about the scale and more about latency, because an Azure standard storage account is on spinning disk. An Azure premium storage account, while it's on flash, still has slightly higher latency than ANF. And ANF, which costs, depending on how you do it, a little bit less than Azure premium, ends up being kind of the sweet spot for a lot of this. I generally say if you've got more than 500 or 1,000 users, you probably want to be on ANF just because it's going to be, from a performance perspective, a lot easier to manage. Plus, it's got all that great snapshot technology that NetApp has. Certainly, Azure Files has snapshots as well, but I'd point you towards ANF for that. But happy to talk about when I might use Azure Files versus Azure Premium Files versus Azure Standard Files, or even if there are situations where people use file servers as well. So happy to talk through those if you want to catch me offline on that. There's some questions about scaling. Do you have any monitoring features to see how many users are connected and how resources? Yeah, that's a great question as well. And I see that there was a link to the monitoring ARM-based Windows Virtual Desktop stuff. I could just pop into that since we are ending a little bit early. What I've deployed in Azure Government is I have an Azure Monitor workspace. So I'm just going to type into my search bar monitor, and I took a workbook that one of my coworkers built for WVD, and the value of using Windows Virtual Desktop in Azure is around all of the telemetry that you have access to. So I can, because I'm logging in with Azure Active Directory, the VMs are running in Azure, the storage accounts are in Azure, I can get user-specific reporting or VM-specific reporting that's unparalleled because it's all sitting right there in Azure. So in this case, I went to the user-specific reporting tab, and I have my WVD user, the one I was demoing with. I can see all their logins. I can see the session host that they connected to, the username that they logged in as, I can see IP addresses, I can see the client type that they have, the session durations available to me, all those things are there for me. And I can see host performance data, session performance data, session diagnostics information, so what errors users are encountering, who's seeing these errors, all these things are available to me, and it's in this gigantic software-defined data center that is Azure. And so the telemetry is just fantastic. A workbook like this, a monitor workbook integrated right in with WVD, is in preview in Azure Commercial right now. So you don't need to roll your own like we did here in my Azure Government environment. Once that becomes GA in Azure Commercial, it'll show up in Azure Government as well, probably about 30 days after. But that was a great question that you had there from a monitoring features perspective. So we've got a lot of things available for you to see. There were a lot of questions about smart card support. I think a lot of those were answered. Does the connection more than one screen? Oh, does the connection, will it be more than one screen? Like, will we connect RDP with multi-screen? Great question. We can have actually up to 16 screens for a session that you can connect. So if I go through the web browser that we saw, I'm only going to get a browser's full. But if I double click on, say, this shared pooled desktop, it won't be that, or the Windows 7 desktop. I'll do that anyway for giggles. It's going to blow the session out across multiple monitors at my house. So because I've enabled the maximum number of monitors on some of these pools. So while you won't see it on all of my computers, because I'm only sharing one monitor, what's going to happen is it's going out, it's finding hopefully an available Windows 7 desktop in my relatively limited infrastructure, going through the connection broker, and it's going to provide me access to that. And here we go. I now have a rich multi-monitor Windows 7 desktop experience, and all you guys can see is one of the side monitors. But yeah, you can get up to 16 monitors if you can find the graphics cards to support it right now. They're kind of constrained out there in the consumer market. So another great question. Anyway, I'll stop talking and I'll let you guys go have your dinner if that's cool, if you haven't already. And if there's any other questions, feel free to get back with me or Mark or Jason. We're happy to help and see if we can help you secure your mobile workforce in this difficult COVID era. So thanks for your time.
Hey, thank you, John, and thank you, Mark and Jason, for your contributions today. We really appreciate them, and thank you for everybody attending the Azure Gov Meetup. We welcome your participation in this meetup and in next meetups, the next one being March 31st. and we have them monthly. So hope to see you again soon, and thank you all.